Hello and welcome. Uttar Pradesh's election is now truly in a critical phase. We are now seeing the Prime Minister and Akhilesh Yadav directly trading charges. In fact, the Prime Minister has spoken of how bombs are kept on cycles directly targeting the Samajwadi Party's party symbol. Let's take a look at this big story this evening on the Mojo Story. As Uttar Pradesh looks at the fourth phase of voting, we are seeing an unprecedented direct battle, not just between Yogi Adityanath and Akhilesh Yadav, but between the Prime Minister and the Samajwadi Party chief. As 38 convicts are sentenced to death in Gujarat for terrorism, we are seeing the Prime Minister link the placing of bombs on cycles, which of course is the symbol of the Samajwadi Party. Akhilesh Yadav is hit back by saying the cycle is rural India's pride, and the Prime Minister's statement is an insult to all of India. This polarization is familiar to the Uttar Pradesh election, but what does it signal? Whose nervousness is it capturing? In the phases that have taken place so far, who has the advantage, and what do we make of these statements where a party symbol has been directly linked to terrorism? Let's introduce our panel on the program today. We are joined by Badri Narayan. Badri Narayan is a political analyst and a commentator and an author. Welcome, Badri ji, to the program. Shantanu Gupta, he's with us. He's an author. He's a biographer of 2 books on Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, who is in contention for a second term. We're also joined by author and veteran journalist Sunita Aron. Sunita Aron knows UP like the back of her hand, and it's great to see Sunita ji again. We're also joined by political psephologist and analyst from the Center for Policy Research, Rahul Verma. And joining us today is lawyer and Samajwadi Party supporter, if we can introduce him as well on the program. We're joined by Abhishek Sudhir. Welcome everybody to the program. So let me first actually play out Prime Minister Modi's statement so that we have the context of what we're talking about. Remember, the Prime Minister spoke of how his government would hunt down these terrorists even if he had to find them in hell. And now you're seeing 38 convicts sentenced to death for a case of Gujarat-based terrorism, the ripples of which are felt in Uttar Pradesh. Listen in.
साथियों, अरे गुजरात में बम धमाके हुए, कभी आपने सुना नहीं होगा। इस बम धमाके कैसे धमाके किए गए थे? 2 प्रकार से किए गए। पहले शहर में एक साथ 50-60 जगह पे धमाके, और उसके 2 घंटे के बाद अस्पताल में एक गाड़ी रखी थी, उसमें बड़ा धमाका, ताकि इन लोगों को जब अस्पताल लेके आए, उनके रिश्तेदार आए, अफसर आए, नेता आए, तब वो कार धमाका करे। अस्पताल के अंदर शायद ही पहली बार आतंकवादियों ने धमाका किया होगा। वहां भी काफी लोग मारे गए, लेकिन इन्होंने क्या किया साथियों? इन्होंने क्या किया? यहां समाजवादी पार्टी का जो चुनाव सिंबल है ना, उनका चुनाव का निशान है ना, तो शुरू में जो बम धमाके हुए, वो सारे के सारे बम धमाके उन्होंने बम साइकिल पे रखे हुए थे। अब देखिए, साइकिल पे बम रखे हुए थे, और जहां लोग सब्जी वगैरह खरीदने के लिए आते हैं, वहीं साइकिल पार्क करके चले गए थे, और एक समय चारों तरफ ये साइकिलों पर रखे हुए बम धमाके फूटे। मैं हैरान हूं, ये साइकिल को उन्होंने क्यों पसंद किया?
All right, the insinuation there is clear. Those who like the cycle, i.e. the symbol of the Samajwadi Party, are also supporters of terrorism. In fact, if there was any ambiguity at all, which there wasn't, this cartoon that was released by the BJP unit in Gujarat also had its own message, which clearly, with one eye on Uttar Pradesh, this cartoon has become extremely controversial. It is, of course, referencing those who have been sent to the gallows in that terrorism case, but the visual depiction of all as Muslims wearing skull caps with beards is obviously sending its own message. Let's start bringing in reactions. Is this new to UP, or is this typical for the polarized politics that is often conducted in the heartland of India? Shantanu, I'll start with you. You are somebody who knows Yogi Adityanath. The Chief Minister has also issued a statement saying some of the convicts are actually linked to Azamgarh in eastern UP. But this broad-based attack on a party symbol, on an entire community, what is, and that too coming from the Prime Minister himself, how do you read this?
Barkha, I'm sure we all know the Prime Minister is an amazing communicator. When he says cycle, he wanted to say Samajwadi Party. That Samajwadi Party has supported terrorists not one time, multiple times, right? I'm sure you must not have forgotten when Simi was about to ban, who were the first one who came in the oppose of the Simi ban, Lalu Prasad Yadav and Mulayam Singh Yadav, right? From my book I'm reading, not advertising my book because it's already quite known, in 2012 manifesto of Samajwadi Party, they have mentioned that we will release Muslim youth who are arrested on the charges of terrorism, and this was one of the only few poll promises which they executed. They issued an order, and against the order, Allahabad High Court, the bench of R.K. Agrawal and R.S. Maurya. Just allow me to read what they said. I'm quoting verbatim the High Court, what they commented to Akhilesh Yadav. Who will decide who is a terrorist, who is not? Let the matter be decided in the court. How can the government decide who is a terrorist? Is the government encouraging terrorism by taking steps to withdraw cases against the accused persons? Listen to the last line very, very carefully, all of you. Today we are withdrawing cases. Tomorrow you will confer Padma Bhushan to them. These are two very senior judges commenting to Akhilesh Yadav. Point number one. Point number two, after a couple of months, one of the terrorists was police was taking them to Faizabad jail. He died of sunstroke. Akhilesh Yadav government FIR against his own policemen, 50 of them, including the DGP, Vikram Singh ji. I'm sure you must have seen him on your shows a couple of times. Rajya Sabha member now, Brijlal ji. He FIR'd against all of them that how can my dear terrorist can die in your custody? So there are not one case, there are multiple cases. Recently, when Yogi Adityanath's police arrested two people, the ATS arrested two people who were having a pressure cooker bomb. He said, no, मुझे वर्दी पे तो believe ही नहीं है. मुझे तो terrorist पे believe है. He did not say मुझे terrorist पे believe है, but almost that's the following.
But can I?
That's not one case. There are a series of things when just for giving a signaling to a Muslim vote bank, they have sided with terrorism, and that's what Prime Minister hinted.
Well, he hardly hinted, Shantanu. As you said, when he invoked the symbol of the cycle, he meant the Samajwadi Party. He also meant that those who vote for the Samajwadi Party are supporting terrorists. Is it fair to judge the voter in this way, whatever you may think of the SP's politics?
So, Barkha, I'm sure you must have heard 1,000 political speeches. The political speech is really meant that Samajwadi Party stood with terrorists time and again. I quoted you 3 examples. In my book, there are 10 examples, right? There are multiple cases supporting Simi to releasing terrorists. When court, I've read you the court verdict, and I doubt that in your journalistic career, I'm sure you must have interviewed Akhilesh Yadav multiple times. Next time, if you meet him, do ask him why was he releasing terrorists, and what's his comment on when court said that today you are releasing them, tomorrow you will issue Padma Bhushan to them. So just Prime Minister was just hinting that Samajwadi Party is association with terrorists.
Okay, let me bring in Abhishek, who's a Samajwadi Party supporter, but also a lawyer. How do you respond, Abhishek, to this? The fact that specific examples have been quoted by Shantanu. The other question I'll add is that Akhilesh Yadav has tried very hard in this campaign to lose the tag of his support base being Muslim Yadav. He's tried to mainstream himself. He's been a visible show of going to temples and offering prayers. He's tried very hard to go beyond the perception of the Muslim Yadav being his core support base. Do you think the Prime Minister's charges will stick? How will the SP actually counter this?
Yeah, well, Barkha, I am an SP supporter, but I'm also a liberal, so I'm going to try and be objective and not just, push the SP line. My objective analysis is this. I think the Bharatiya Janata Party does a great injustice to itself. Every election, they kind of think they'll go in and talk about development, they'll talk about the issues. But a couple of months before the polls, they just abandon and jettison all of that. We don't hear about double engine. We don't hear about development. Uttar Pradesh #1, which was a big sort of, plank on which they were campaigning. Barkha, I'm telling you in advance, there's no power right now in Lucknow where I am. Luckily, I have power backup, right? But if you hear the BJP, it feels like we are living in a utopian paradise here in Uttar Pradesh and everything is fine, hunky-dory. There are structural problems in this state. You have issues with jobs. Fundamentally, there's an election about jobs. Why is the BJP not talking about that? Mr. Akhilesh Yadav is saying 22 lakh jobs in the IT sector. The great tragedy, Barkha, of Indian politics is we don't do debates on manifestos, right? I mean, if you read, the Samajwadi Party has written an 80-page manifesto. They've released a small booklet called 22 Promises for 2022, right? We need to have a discussion on these issues. The Samajwadi Party has said 300 units of free electricity. I want to have a debate with Shantanu Gupta. Is this a good idea? Right? Can you budget for this? Right? Is 300 units of free electricity a SOP? I say it's not a SOP. I say if you give 300 units of free electricity, I personally in Uttar Pradesh will save 1800 rupees. Sunita Aron is here. She also lives in Lucknow. When you save 1800
No, I
rupees,
hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, Abhishek, that why are
Yeah.
economic issues not being debated? But the point
Yeah.
is, part of politics is to get people to care about the issues that matter.
Yes.
And that depends on the individual communication skills of different leaders.
Exactly
Now,
what Akhilesh Yadav has done, Barkha. He's got people to care about these issues. If you go to his campaign rallies, right, you see the enthusiasm with which this promise of free electricity is met with. You see the enthusiasm with which the promise of the job creation that he's talking about. He is saying that I will ensure, right, we bring out a policy document on how we can better fill the vacancies in government. He's not promising that he'll fill all the vacancies immediately. He says we need a policy document. He's saying we are going to constitute a hate crimes unit so that there is no Hathras again. He's talking about an 1890, 1890 Mazdoor power line. When he was chief minister, he started a 1090, 1090 women's power line, right? There's a big chora in Lucknow. You can ask Sunita Aron, right? That women's power line has empowered women. Today, sexual harassment, eve teasing, you call them. One more point about the Mazdoor power line. We saw how the migrant laborers were abandoned in the lockdown. What Mr. Akhilesh Yadav has said is, I will set up this power line. If you're a migrant laborer anywhere in Uttar Pradesh, I will call this, you can call this power line, and we, the Uttar Pradesh government, will ensure your repatriation to Uttar Pradesh. These are the issues that matter. Shantanu, you're shaking your head. Give me a point-by-point rebuttal. Talk about the BJP manifesto, sir. Tell me what Yogi Adityanath is promising. Please stop demonizing and othering the Muslim community. This cartoon is a replica of what the Nazis had come out with in the 1930s. This is a replica of a Nazi cartoon where Jewish people were hung. You are embarrassing us on the international stage. Shantanu, you studied at the University of Sussex. I went to University College London. My classmates are reaching out to me, sending me this cartoon. This is a national embarrassment. Twitter has had to condemn you all and take this cartoon down. Are you ready to condemn this, Shantanu, or are you going to keep dog whistling and demonizing the Muslim community?
let me just bring in Shantanu briefly on one point. One of the things that Akhilesh Yadav and Jayant Chaudhary have been saying is, let them वो बात करे जिन्ना की, हम बात करें गन्ना की. What they mean by that is that earlier too, Akhilesh Yadav's comments on Jinnah were really seized by Yogi Adityanath and made a central issue. The Samajwadi Party and the RLD are trying to focus on economic issues. Can you come in on this, Shantanu?
Yeah. I think first of all, I think you already said Jinnah. Who brought Jinnah to the debate? It was not BJP. It was Samajwadi Party, and not one, multiple times. He defended himself also in multiple press conferences later, right? Who is making sure that Mukhtar Ansari come in the contest is Samajwadi Party. Who is making sure that Azam Khan fights? Still, he's a boo mafia. 80 cases on him. They are not able to get a bail from him after putting a battery of lawyers. Who is making sure that Azam Khan, because they don't want Azam Khan, they just want to give a signaling to, even if you're Azam Khan, if you're boo mafia, even if you're Mukhtar Ansari, because if you're Muslim, we will protect you. Even if you're Atangwadi terrorists, we will protect you. They're just giving signaling to their Muslim vote bank that we will protect you, whatever may come, right? And if this is not clear to all of you, I'm sure you can close your eyes and ears, till cows come home. See, now on the electricity, there might not be electricity now, but I'm sure even the worst critic of Yogi Adityanath will tell there's a drastic change in electricity. The highest power, you can check in the grid, the highest power supplied in UP was 16,000 megawatt. Today, the highest power is almost of the order of 25,000, 26,000 megawatt, which is 8,000 megawatt more.
Okay.
On an average, 7 to 8 hours more electricity in rural India.
Here's what I want to ask. And let me open this up now, and I'll start with you, Sunita. Is this an election that is going to be determined on the performance of the Yogi Adityanath government, on the electricity supply, on the law and order situation, on the issue of stray cattle, on the issue of unemployment, on the issue of sugarcane prices, or will it be overshadowed by emotion? Will emotion displace the economy? That is the simple question. When we look at the Prime Minister's speech, clearly the BJP, one of its one of the combinations that has worked for it is microeconomic welfare schemes like free rations of Yogi Adityanath, combined with a high voltage polarized approach, which is what maybe we see in the Prime Minister's speech. What is working on the ground so far, Sunita?
Look, I think it's mix of everything. It's a cocktail of you can say issues. Law and order is a very big issue. You have a vote bank of beneficiaries who got ration, and in fact, the Prime Minister himself said that in the rural pockets, people are talking about salt loyalty because the packet of salt that's being distributed to the ration holders, it carries a photograph of Modi. So, UP politics, emotions always plays a very important role, whether it is women's security, whether it is terrorism, or whether it is even distribution of ration, whether it is Muzaffarnagar riots. The only thing I personally feel is when the Prime Minister is talking, I don't remember if ever any party symbol has been attacked in a speech. You can say that the cycle was used. One can always say this is not the first time when BJP leaders have said that Samajwadi Party government, Akhilesh Yadav, had released terrorists. It's something which has been there in the public domain and has been discussed even in 2017. I think it was talked about in 2017 also. But this is the first time when a party symbol, I don't remember ever in any election where a party symbol has been, an issue has been raised about party symbol.
Is it working? Is it finding resonance? You see, one of the things the BJP managed to do in Bihar, where Tejasvi Yadav put a lot of focus. Rahul, that would be my question to you, and Sunita, you could just complete your point. Same question for Badri and Rahul. Tejasvi focused a lot on the economy, but the BJP managed to take things back to the memory of a certain Gundagardi that was associated with the Lalu Raj. They kept bringing Jungle Raj. Here too, obviously, there is an attempt to consolidate the Hindu vote. Akhilesh Yadav has been trying hard to go beyond the MY core groups, which is why Akhilesh's visits to many temples, as I was mentioning. So, Sunita, is it working?
It will, to some extent. It will, because BJP is on a little sticky wicket in the sense that right now the election is open. It can go either way. There are people who are giving 250 seats to BJP, but from their own speeches, from their discourse, you can make out that somewhere they are also worried that they should not lose UP because on UP depends everything. Everything means the way the country's politics is being done, that will change if they lose UP. So they'll use everything that they have in their bucket to hit on. So this terrorism thing it started from Muzaffarnagar, not the first time. It's only terrorism, Muslim, the divisive politics, nothing else. So Hindus who are BJP supporters and who feel that Samajwadi Party or the Muslims as a community are involved in majority of the cases, terrorism cases, definitely they'll go with the BJP. The fence sitters, perhaps some fence sitters will be moved. Otherwise, symbol with a symbol, because in rural pockets, people identify, they don't know the candidates, they know the party symbol. So there it helps. Somewhere you are telling cycle is something, cycle means
very
terrorism.
interesting. That's a very interesting part, that people barely know the names necessarily of their candidates. They respond to the symbol. Here, the symbol is sought to be sullied by the BJP. Let's bring in Badri and Rahul. Rahul, you go first, since Badriji is finishing a phone call, I think. But Rahul, go ahead. Polarization, the attempt to consolidate the Hindu vote, nothing new to the UP political battlefield. Is there something different this time?
No, you already said, and everyone agreed to it. Polarization is part of politics. All parties are going to offer development. Parties don't differ on that. Everyone is going to promise moon. Parties differ on their core ideological agendas. And so BJP will play on its core ideological agenda. And see, I think we are giving too much importance to this one sentence by Prime Minister or anyone. Like Akhilesh Yadav also has says these things, or Mayawati says these things. Should this be part of politics? I would say no. But given what has been happening in our country for many years, and so some statement like this, as Sunita ji very rightly pointed out, politicians always try to find symbols and messages to basically get their cadres out, and yeah, so I don't think it's anything new. Now, the bigger question which you are asking is, why is economy or economic concerns not an issue? They are always an issue. It's not that because there is not something being said directly in a polling campaign, they are not issue. They are always part of campaign repertoire, and in various ways different parties try to play on what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So they will try to make those issues more salient, which they think they can mobilize on, and underplay the things which they think will go against them.
Well, okay, I will come back later to what's working, what's not working, and for whom, or is there a regional disparity also in terms of what we see? Now, of course, the opposition is getting together and reclaiming the symbol of the cycle. You're seeing Priyanka Chaturvedi, they're saying cycle plus mask is equal to cyclist, not terrorist. Okay, bye. She also made a big point about the health minister coming to parliament on a cycle. Badri ji, how do you see this? Do you agree with Rahul that the media will focus on this one sentence, but it won't really change how people vote? Or will it, as Sunita said, क्योंकि सब सिंबल जानते हैं, सब जानते हैं कि सिंबल क्या है, will it sully the cycle as a symbol? Because it's come from the Prime Minister, not just at a local level.
Barkha, I agree with Rahul and Sunita ji on various issues. This Pradhan Mantri is, as Shantanu said, is a very good communicator, amazing communicator. So he used various bhav of people in his deliberations. So satire, sarcasms, pathos, various kinds of human bhav he is trying to evoke. That's one of his strategy. And in that, what he says, like in this statement, you remember his lecture or hear his entire lecture. He talked most of the time about Garib, about ration, about various kinds of social development project which BJP is doing with the marginals. But this one line picked up by the media, and it became very important. It led the entire discourse of the media and the television and all. But I would like to tell that if you go in villages, these discourses does not percolate there. No one knows that Pradhan Mantri said like this. No one said that Akhilesh is saying. People know that people vote for voting with social alliances, various social alliances based on the caste. Caste means the base vote and the stepney votes. And if you go in the villages, if you talk to the people, Yadav was very clear that whether what is going to be happening in this country, there has no meaning with that. They are going to vote to the
but Badri ji, talking
similarly Dalits.
Yes, can I ask you? That's very interesting because last time the sort of Yadav OBCs basically propelled the BJP's win. इस बारी मुझे अखिलेश यादव ने एक इंटरव्यू में कहा कि हमारी बहुरंगी गठबंधन ये एक रंगी पार्टी को डिफीट करेगी. So when you talk about these social alliances, are these social alliances working for the opposition, or is the BJP so far, you think, succeeding in consolidating the Hindu identity as a voting bloc?
Barkha, I think this is a very good question. And the Samajwadi Party has extended its social alliances this election. And Yadav Muslim to few MBC's communities came under his social alliance. But BJP had it's a bigger social alliance, and there are fracture. The MBC votes are going to be fractured this time, or non-Yadav OBCs are also going to be fractured in some percent, not in a big fracture. But even then, BJP has a broader social alliance than others because of now BJP is in the space of it's like Congress, who has a vote at everywhere. In every community, you can find BJP has a vote. And base vote, then stepney votes, then the votes which are coming from here.
So at the moment, you're saying BJP has the advantage in terms of building the alliances. All right. Rahul, Sunita, do you want to add to that before I go back to Shantanu? Rahul, do you want to add to that briefly?
Two seconds. Thank you, Barkha. 2 points. One, I think you've been asking this again and again. Will this work? We will never know whether this worked or not. There is no way of knowing it. Elections are won and lost on accumulated sentiments. So what happens during the campaign may change things marginally, but parties lose and win what they did in 5 years. And this is not just what they did as a government in performance, but what kind of resources they managed to generate as an organization, what kind of social coalition they managed to create, how popular their leadership is, and how did they perform. So I think campaigns are just one element. So we should not actually focus too much on the campaign part. And second is basically something which Badri ji was saying about social alliances, which is, like they are created in a very, like, so, and I don't want to be sound academic, which is, parties come from the Latin verb part, which means to divide. So it is inherent in the nature of political parties to divide society to create majorities for them. So that's why you keep seeing Shantanu. Okay, shaking head is not a good
No, no,
idea.
no,
But
no,
yeah,
no, no. He'll respond. You can complete your sentence. That's okay. Don't get dismayed by the shaking of Shantanu's head.
yeah.
What do you
No,
want? Yeah.
so parties will see, and social alliances are not created out of thin air, right? So we keep discussing this caste is moving there, that caste is coming
Yes.
here. It does not happen every election. There is like small segments of any caste move, which does not mean like it is moving because of the social identity. Something else is driving those movements.
Yes, yes. I take your point that it's such a, it's like an algorithm. You actually don't know what the hits and misses are, but there is a certain set of ingredients, Shantanu, that the BJP does use. It uses a certain amount of welfareism, microeconomics at the grassroots, in a cocktail of high emotion and polarization, which is what we're seeing here again. Would you agree with that, Shantanu?
I think first of all, Barkha, I agree with Rahul ji on one point that when a voter goes to a polling station to the EVM machine, there is no one agenda, another agenda. We keep saying Vikas pe jeetenge, Ram Mandir pe jeetenge. I wish it is so binary, right? It's a multivariable equation. Remember in our maths days, x plus y plus z plus x square, a square.
Yeah.
It's a huge equation, and some has square, some had cube. There are various degrees, right? And as Rahul ji said, even in the end, even after the post-mortem surveys of CSDS and whoever, you can't never find out what worked. We as analysts articulate something which may sound fancy, but it will finally never come out, right? But yeah, when you go to the field, when you keep hearing the same thing, you can make some certain assertions. One video which is going viral, I also tweeted it, and this lady is articulating better than all of us together. She's saying, first of all, she's saying, अगर मोदी योगी चले गए तो मेरा तो जीवन खराब हो जाएगा. She's saying, I start my day and I end my day with Narendra Modi and Yogi's things. I start my day with the toilet, which is built by the scheme. Then I go to my kitchen. I start my stove, which is given by the scheme. Then I use the ration, which is given by them. Then whatever grocery, whatever things and buy, this is one of the DBTs that came to my account, right? So, and she may be a Yadav or a Brahman or a Muslim or a Hindu. She's a new caste, which I call a beneficiary caste. It's not the benefits were not going before, but the efficiency of benefits in last 5 years and last 7 years, right? It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, right? Because now DBT, everyone is using DBT. Even non-BJP governments are using DBT because now we have a very smooth jam trinity. So this is going beyond caste boundaries. This beneficiary caste, at least for a couple of elections, maybe people will get used to of this also.
But don't you think? And I'll come to Abhishek right after that. So briefly, Shantanu, don't you think it's beneficiary plus, and there is no campaign run by the BJP that ever leaves identity politics outside of its campaign?
No, so that's what I'm saying. But in that variable, there is one thing. What is my identity? Do I relate to an old leader or a young leader or a woman leader or a leader of my region, of my caste or religion? That's a very important part of how I vote, right? I, being a Hindu, it's not just by the way. Like that's the way my Janmtithi was decided. That's the way I behave. That's the way I got married. That's the way I live my life. So my Hindu identity is not just one column in my form. It's like it's my life and for a lot of us. So saying identity politics, you are trivializing it. It's a major part of someone's identity, and parties catering to it. That's all.
Okay, Abhishek and then Sunita. Abhishek, is this a dilemma for the opposition? Here's what the opposition has understood. The opposition has understood that you cannot compete and win with the BJP when it comes to an identity fault line. Because, for example, even when you criticize this cartoon now taken down by Twitter, as you said. To get caught in that being the main set of issues is a set of issues that works to the advantage of the BJP. So do you ignore this provocation? Do you look the other way? And how do you make a conversation about the economy emotive?
So, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, Barkha, you know, there's a lot of points that are made, and that ties into your question as well. I think it's very simplistic to say every Yadav will vote for Samajwadi Party. You have Bhupendra Yadav, who's a union minister, who's just written a book called The BJP Making of the Largest National Party in the World. So that's very simplistic. I think sophologists and political analysts, Barkha, I grew up watching most of the people on this panel, except Shantanu, he's a contemporary. But, you know, I have been hearing this on your
Are you,
days.
are you saying that the rest of us are very old? No, go
No,
ahead.
but I'm saying you're very wise. I'm saying you're very
You guys are.
wise. Yes. I never missed. I mean, from the days of Kargil, I've been watching you.
Thank
But I
you,
think
yeah.
we simplify this too much. Look, yes, caste alliances are important, but the agenda is the same. Baba Sahib Ambedkar said the Dalit is starved of access to state power. So when Behenji becomes chief minister, the Jatav knows कि मान सम्मान बढ़ेगी, पर रोटी कपड़ा मकान भी मिलेगा, बिजली मिलेगी, सड़क पानी मिलेगी. VP Singh, the Raja of Banda, right, Mandal, right, that was what he said, access to state power. Mulayam Singh Yadav, when he became the Yadav chief minister, wasn't the first chief minister. I think Ram Naresh Yadav was the first Yadav chief minister, if I'm not mistaken. But then when Mulayam Singh Yadav became chief minister, Yadav's got access to state power. So today, OP Rajbar, who's allying with Akhilesh Yadav, that is an economic alliance. Because OP Rajbar is saying, I will bring the Rajbars into the fold. See, the Rajbars don't have a leader like the Yadavs have a leader. See, the problem with the non-Yadav OBC in this country, the Nishad does not have a pan-UP leader.
Yes, we understand. I understand. So what is your larger conclusion is?
Yeah. The Nishad, the larger conclusion is the Nishad party is an ally of the BJP. All caste alliances are also economic alliances. That is how you make it an emotive issue. OP Rajbar says, Yogi Adityanath would not respect me when I went to 5 Kalidas Marg. That is an emotive issue because OP Rajbar is going there and saying essentially that, you know, I want subcategorization of OBCs. He says subcategorization of OBCs. That's an economic issue tied into caste. The opposition's dilemma, Barkha, as you said, I disagree that the Prime Minister is a great communicator all the time. He makes a lot of faux pas. Right? One of the golden rules of an election, if you're in power, is don't say something that will cost you the election. In Bengal, he said Didi o Didi, which cost him the election. In Uttarakhand, Amit Shah has compared Harish Rawat to a dog, which would cost them the election. And in Uttar Pradesh, you're attacking a cycle. When you attack a cycle, you're attacking that guy who does not have the money for a double engine.
Okay,
he does not have the money to buy something that has an engine.
Let's get responses.
So that's an emotive attack.
Okay, Sunita and Badri, and the last comment. Sunita.
So I just want to take you back to 2014. We had Modi as the face of Bharatiya Janata Party, a development face as well as a Hindu face. But when they came to UP, they realized that this is not enough. They had Ayodhya, they had Mathura, they had every possible divisive issue in their pocket. But still, Amit Shah spent days in UP just doing caste alliances because he realized, the BJP realized the importance of caste alliances in UP. It can't be without caste alliances that you can win an election. After that, before that, Mayawati had done caste alliances, and before that, Congress ruled the country because of the caste alliances that they had done. This is the first time when Samajwadi Party has done some caste alliances. We don't know how, and I think this is what even BJP is trying to know, how these caste alliances are going to work. And that's why they're also worried. They have done caste alliances. Samajwadi Party has done caste alliances, and it's a bipolar contest. So which caste will split, how much, where it will go, I think this is going to decide the election and not anything else.
Badri ji, go ahead.
I fully agree with what Sunita ji is saying. मैं थोड़ा गांव की बात बताने जा रहा हूं तो थोड़ा हिंदी भी कह देता हूं. एकदम ये जो बेनिफिशियरी कम्युनिटी वाली बात है, I wrote pieces on that and I was arguing for that. But जब हम फील्ड में जाने लगे तो हमें दो तरह का वर्जन सुनाई पड़े. एक, जब चमारों के जाटवों की बस्ती में गए, उन्होंने कहा 5 किलो मिल तो रहा है लेकिन हम वोट बहन जी को देंगे, क्योंकि उन्होंने क्यों कहा कि अगर सब लोग अपनी जाति को दे रहे हैं तो हम अपनी कोई जाति को क्यों ना दे. दूसरा आर्गुमेंट उन्होंने दिया कि अगर हम किसी और को वोट भी दे देंगे तो कोई विश्वास नहीं करेगा, इसलिए हम उन्हीं को देंगे. सिमिलर आर्गुमेंट वी हर्ड इन द बस्ती ऑफ यादव्स इन द वेरियस विलेजेस इन ईस्टर्न यूपी. तो ये जो बेस वोट हैं, दे आर वेरी फिक्स्ड. और इसके साथ जो अदर जातियां हैं, जो छोटी छोटी जातियां हैं, वहां पर ही बेनिफिशियरी अलायंसेस.
तो बद्री जी, आप कह रहे हैं कि जो
सुन लीजिए बरखा, इसको खत्म करने दीजिए. तो जो छोटी छोटी जातियां हैं वहां पर ये बेनिफिशियरी कॉन्शसनेस इज वर्किंग, क्योंकि वहां वो कह रहे हैं कि जो जो बेस वोट नहीं है, जो स्टेपनी वोट्स हैं, जो फटा हुआ वोट जिनको गांव में कहते हैं, वो कोल का वोट है, जो बहुत सारी छोटी छोटी जातियों का वोट है, एमबीसीज का, वो कहते हैं कि हाँ हमें मिल रहा है राशन और हम बीजेपी को वोट देंगे। कई उसमें से कहते हैं कि हम बीजेपी को वोट देंगे क्योंकि उनसे हमें मिल रहा है, उन्होंने हमें ये दिया, उन्होंने हमें ये दिया, उन्होंने हमें ये दिया। तो इन द विलेजेज यू कैन हियर अ न्यू टर्म कि फटा हुआ वोट, कहा कि देखो हम लोगों का वोट तो फिक्स है लेकिन उनका वोट फटा हुआ है, उन जातियों का वोट फटा हुआ है। तो वो फटा हुआ वोट ही इस बार इलेक्शन डिसाइड करने जा रहे हैं, वो किसके तरफ जाते हैं ये देखने की बात है।
मैं आपसे यही पूछना चाह रही थी कि फटा हुआ वोट अगर इलेक्शन तय करने वाला है तो आप कह रहे हैं कि ये लहर वाली चुनाव नहीं है।
बिल्कुल
ब,
नहीं,
बद, हाँ, बद्री
बिल्कुल
जी।
नहीं है, बहुत बिल्कुल नहीं है ये लहर की चुनाव, और ये अंडर करेंट का भी चुनाव नहीं है। ये बहुत साफ चुनाव है, बहुत क्लियर चुनाव है। और इस बार लेकिन जनता बहुत मिसलीड करती है, बड़े बड़े महंगाई बेरोजगारी की बात करेगी, लेकिन बात जब आप थोड़ी देर और बैठ के बात करेंगे, एक एक दो दो घंटा देंगे, तो फिर वो जाति पर आ जाएगी, फिर वो जाति की बात करने लगेगी आपसे। तो जाति मैं तो पहले भी चुनाव को अध्ययन करता रहा हूं, लेकिन इस बार कुछ जातियों के बेस वोट बहुत ज्यादा एग्रेसिव हैं अपनी अपनी पार्टी के लिए, जो शायद पिछले बार नहीं देखा गया था।
वेरी
जाति
इंटरेस्टिंग,
हमेशा होती है, बट दिस टाइम दे आर वेरी एग्रेसिव।
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग।
इवन
और
मायावती का ट्विटर पे हमारे बहुत सारे जर्नलिस्ट कहते रहते हैं कि इधर जा रहे हैं उधर जा रहे हैं, दे आर वेरी एग्रेसिव। वो कह रहे हैं कि मायावती हारे चाहे जीते हम वोट उन्हीं को देंगे, दे आर वेरी कमिटेड फॉर दैट।
So basically, Sunita, do you agree? And Rahul, do you agree? Then I'll give our political supporters the last word. What Badri Narayan saying is a fascinating thing, that core caste groups are voting for their affiliated parties. There's no great sort of rising above caste that's happening, and it's the floating caste groups that are going to decide the outcome of this election. Sunita, first you.
It doesn't
Of
happen
course,
anywhere.
this is
Sorry, sorry.
precisely this is precisely what I was saying, that the caste alliances have become very important. We don't know Rajpur in which constituency is going to, they are going to vote for Om Prakash Rajpur this time, even if he is not a very big leader. Kurmis are dividing because there is another Kurmi leadership that has come up, and Krishna Patel, as wife of Sone Lal Patel, has some sympathy factor, but Anupriya Patel remains leader, their leader, but they are splitting. There are certain videos that are going around. Thakurs are solidly with Yogi. So for every Brahmins, by and large with BJP, but if they are angry in some constituency, they will not vote for Samajwadi Party. They'll sit at home. They'll prefer to sit at home. Gujars divided, Jats divided, Muslims solidly with Samajwadi Party, Jatavs with Bahujan Samaj Party. So let's do our additions. We need to add all caste and then know what the result is going to be.
Okay, Rahul, do you sense anything different
I
than from the last
partially
election?
agree
Yeah.
with that formulation and partially disagree. And the reason I agree, because social alliances, and in the Indian case, caste alliances are not a new thing, and social alliances are part of any democracy. You know which way African Americans will vote, which way white Americans will vote. So it's not unique to India, it's not unique to Uttar Pradesh. That's the point number one. Two, okay, small caste move towards one side or the other. What moves them? Tomorrow, if I stand and say I'm leader of Verma, will anyone believe me as a leader of Verma? That doesn't have, right? So there is always, like, so Krishna Patel stands up, will she be treated as on par with Anupriya Patel as a Kurmi leader? There is something else going on which moves these communities. And why do we think, if there are base votes of base parties, why we assume that a smaller caste are not also show partisan loyalties? That's point number one. Point number two, and I think we give too much weightage to this idea. If you talk to someone for long enough, you get to know the truth. In fact, you get to hear lots of things, and that is confusing. And this is what happens in long speeches. You basically, in a 1 hour speech, you will hear about development, and you will hear about identity, and you will hear about anything. So once you elongate your conversation, it does not mean you are reaching to truth. You are basically hearing so many stories, and it just mixes and matches up.
Right. I actually agree with you. And I also agree with you that when groups move, it is that X factor, that intangible factor, whether a leadership, whether emotion, whether issues that actually determine an election. Let me quickly get a last comments from Abhishek and Shantanu before we close. Abhishek, 30 seconds, last comment. Sorry, Sunita, you're trying to say a sentence? Sorry.
One line. Caste
Yeah.
alliances play their role when there is no wave. And this time there is no wave. That's the reason why we are talking about caste.
But
Okay,
it's also
Abhishek.
difficult to figure out waves. No one knew there was a wave in 2017. Waves
No,
only are known post hoc.
Badri
no,
ji is
no,
also trying to
no,
say
no.
something.
हाँ
Badri
मैं
ji.
ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि I want
Badri
to
ji.
say that maybe Rahul can be maybe be confused, but we are not going to confuse. But while listening are many things, because
I'm
many
not
things
saying there is a wave. I'm saying
give you deeper insights. No, आप जाके सीधे बात करेंगे, कोई आपको कुछ भी नहीं बताएगा. ये आप जान लो. आप जब बैठोगे घंटों उसके साथ बात करोगे तभी कुछ निकाल सकते हो, नहीं तो नहीं निकलेगा. And
Rahul
whatever you are
ji's.
saying ना, whatever you are saying, एक तरह से एक superficial level पर you are saying the things. If you go and do the field work, हर आदमी field work का claim कर सकता है. You can get the picture what we are saying. कोई ये किसी के
Rahul
लिए
ji,
छुपी हुई बात नहीं है. कोई
Rahul
Well,
ji,
जाएगा
now
तो
you're
those
वैसे ही
taking
are
it
दिखाएगा.
17
personally.
May.
That's not my
Just
comment.
one
I am
line.
not
Those
saying
are
You are
17 May.
countering.
I'm
It
एक
was
basically
just
making a
Modi. It was just
I'm
Modi, no Yogi. It was just Modi. Wherever you went, you heard about Modi.
so just 30 seconds
2017, it was very
and
clear.
no, I'm not I'm not disagreeing with you all. All I'm trying to make a point, which is
Nothing. That's the problem. You are disagreeing for nothing. You should disagree for something. No, you bring something. No, you are not bringing something.
अच्छा
You
उनको
are just
बोलने दीजिए.
disagreeing. That's the
राहुल
problem.
बोलिए. राहुल.
अब मैं बड़े लोगों के बीच में ऐसे कैसे लाइक मैं अपनी एक
ये
बात
जी.
मैं एक लॉजिक जब भी आप किसी को ज्यादा देर तक बोलने का मौका देंगे स्पीच में 1.5 वो सारी बातें कहेगा ना जिसे आप
आप
प्लीज
ये
सर
कह रहे हैं,
जब
आप ये
आप
कह रहे हैं कि
इंटरप्ट कर रहे
वोटर
हैं
का माइंड जानना बहुत मुश्किल है, चाहे आप उससे 15 मिनट बात करें, चाहे आप उनसे आधा घंटा बात करें. इज व्हाट यू आर सेइंग दैट द आधा घंटा विल नॉट नेसेसरीली लीड यू टू द ट्रूथ, राइट राहुल? दैट्स व्हाट यू आर
True,
सेइंग.
because see,
ओके.
if you think, because once I try to get close to someone, say 15 minutes is superficial, but why do you think two
Okay.
minutes, 2 hours will make a more intimate
Badri,
conversation?
okay, this is a rare program where the political supporters are arguing less than the experts. They're smiling and listening to all of you arguing. So let's give Abhishek a quick last word and then Shantanu
Yeah.
closes the show. Yeah, Abhishek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, we're going to do our cheerleading. Shantanu will do his, now I'll do mine.
Okay.
So, look, Barkha, I mean, I can't say this on national TV without being ridiculed, but you're one of the faces of liberalism in this country, right? You've spawned a generation of liberals. So, this election is a massive election for us liberals. Rahul Gandhi is not the answer. The Congress party is no longer the answer. To me, Akhilesh Yadav is the Senapati of the alliance for 2024. Mamta Didi will be by his side. That is what I'm expecting. For that to happen, he has to win this election. Agar Kamal ko harana hai, to cycle ka button dabana hai. It's very simple. If you want to defeat the BJP, you have to vote for the SP. Any other vote for any other party is a wasted vote. I take on board what Badri Narayan ji said. I endorse that. That biradri, that word biradri, has a lot of power in Uttar Pradesh. Hamare biradri ko denge. But then you might just be voting for the BJP if you vote for the BSP or the Congress, so or the AIMM for that matter. So a vote for a non-SP party is a vote for the BJP. If you're a liberal and you want to see the end of the BJP, the beginning has to be made in 2022.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of the fragmentation in the smaller parties. We didn't touch upon it often, enough in depth. Shantanu, who will these smaller parties and this fragmentation help?
See, I think we have heard Badri ji, Rahul ji, and how this fragmentation is happening. So though maybe a Maurya leader, a Rajbhar leader, but even BJP has a lot of Rajbhar leaders. BJP is one of the deputy chief ministers of Maurya. So BJP, it's not that BJP is not holding these parties, right? Only thing, because maybe Akhilesh Yadav has done maybe a little pomp and show around it. So maybe that's a lot of clutter. That's one. See, I've been to almost 33 districts in last 1.5 years and 15 districts last 3 months. And the kind of trust I have seen for Yogi Adityanath particularly, along with Narendra Modi, it's like, I don't know, will I call it a wave or I don't know what, right? That's one. Secondly, I have commented a lot of you and in commentary in media since the Prime Minister has so spoken on bicycle thing, instead of discussing that how shamelessly Samajwadi Party sided with terrorists, we got stuck with that cycle thing. just to escape, so that Samajwadi Party can escape. Ask tough questions to them, that why in their manifesto there was a thing to release Muslim terrorist culprits. Why Mulayam Singh Yadav was siding with Simi. Why when an Atangwadi died in police custody, the 50 policemen were offered, like someone as senior as DGP Vikram Singh. I think those were the tough questions should be asked to Samajwadi Party. Don't get stuck in the semantics of cycle. If you want to give them an escape route, that's fine, if that's your intention.
Well, I think we are as journalists used to getting galleys from all political parties. So the Samajwadi Party and the BJP are, if both are unhappy with us, I think we must be doing something right. We leave it there. There needs to be a separate conversation on convictions, under trials, the cases, the specifics of it. That needs a separate program, and I think it would be better served to have it after this election is over, so that the political noise around it can be removed. Thanking Sunita, Rahul, Badri, Shantanu, and Abhishek. Pleasure listening to all of you, and see you again soon. To our audience, see you tomorrow, same time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.